Yo, what's going on, everybody out there? Moogles of all ages. It is a Worlds Collide Wednesday here on the SpeedGaming family of networks. I'm one of your hosts, the Schwantz27. I am joined tonight in the commentary booth by Drinks Glue. Drinks Glue, how's it hanging?
You know, it's hanging pretty well tonight, my dog. We got a very exciting Ultras League Season 6 preview. Ultras League Season 6, by the way, kicks off in just 3 days, April 6th, this Saturday. So this will be our last Speed Gaming broadcast where it's a pickup race. Maybe in the future we'll have some of the division races for you, some live competitive action, mano-y-mano, if you will.
Well, that doesn't mean that this race won't be competitive, Glue. We've got tons of great runners for you, both on and off screen, and we'll shuffle them in when some of the ones on stream finish, so that this way we could have an action-packed, ready-to-go segment. Also joined by Knuckly Kong, our tracker, and Joker Mage, pushing all the beepity bops behind the scenes to make things go our way. So thank you all so much for volunteering. Glue, so what are we looking forward to with Season 6 of Ultras League? Can you tell me a little bit about some of the differences from Season 5? And I'm hearing we have very, very big numbers for turnout this season as well.
Oh my goodness, breaking news from the man himself. He just told us before we went on the air. We were at his door banging, demanding we know the total turnout, and we are up to 109 signups, and that is a huge number. Last season, I believe we had 96, so we're already like at 13 more. Plus, we still have 3 more days, so plenty of time to sign up if you are still interested. But to answer what is on tap for Season 6, there are some few changes for Season 5. No big overhaul. It's still the Ultras League format you're familiar with, but there are 2 changes I'd like to point out. One being the number of check skips has been increased from 21 to 22. And once again, you know, I'm not a math scientist. Scientists are a very, very enlightened individual, but I do believe 22 is larger than 21. Not by much, but at least by 1.
It is also the number of pieces of coral you need to feed in the chest at Ebbett's Rock. Coincidence? I think not. Actually, the decision behind this, I totally agree with. I think it was a little bit easy to get to check skip in the prior Ultras League Season 5. It was sort of designed as a fail-safe mechanism if a runner took maybe a less than optimal route through the seed and ran into a few dead checks. It penalizes that overall a little bit less. What else is on tap here, as we'll tell the runners that they've got a 2-minute warning?
We do have a nice little bump to the number of lures our characters can potentially start with. Previously, we were limited to having 3 to 5 lures, and that left too many scenarios where you were left with some of the less desirable lures. So if you had a lure character, lure wasn't really a viable ability unless you had a handful of the S tier lures. But that has been bumped from 6 to 10 possible lures that you start with, and that just increases the chance that you get some of the more useful lures. And there are some useful lures, very useful lures. Even in the pitch, you may look past Explorer, but if you, and I chatted earlier, Explorer you can find some creative uses for. I have personally taken down a number of Tier 4 Final Kepskas with Explorer before. You could use it in a pinch for your Tritalk, for your
I've used it on Magimaster before.
Yeah, you can use it on Magimaster. Again, it's not ideal, but there is a use for it. You just got to be willing to commit to it.
Well, hopefully we get a lore character that does not have Exploder in the list, but it does increase the chances of some of those, really good ones that you sort of mentioned there. It bumps it up basically to an 80% chance. If you have a lore user, you'll start with one of the higher ones. And there's not a lot of room to learn lores, even in Worlds Collide, where the lore user, even if they're not in your party, they will learn a lore if it gets cast on your party anyway.
Yeah, one of the things with Grand Train and Quasar is that they're fantastic because they ignore defense, but they also ignore defense on you. So a lot of times, too, when they come out, you don't tend to survive that.
No, getting a big rock thrown in your face is no bueno.
Yeah, plus there's very seldomly we'll come across a boss that is able to use it on you. And sometimes because it's a later skilled ability that when you do find it, you're past the usefulness point for that ability. You're already cooking with another set of ingredients. But nevertheless, Quasar, Aqua Rate, Coin Sweep,
Arrow,
Big Guard, Grand Train, Pep up is fantastic, by the way. Yeah, but that's
unless your character wants to use it in the Coliseum, then it's not fantastic.
Yeah, another discussion for another day. But again, 6 to 10 lures is now what you can start with. The Curse Shield battle has also been increased by 1. Little less impact. So you just have to fight 1 more medal than you would if it was a season 5 as opposed to a season 6, but real negligible on that change.
Which means we'll see Ultima a little bit less often than normal, right? Because not only do you have to uncurse the shield with a minimum of 7 battles, but then you have to learn Ultima at a ×1 rate, and then you have to cast Ultima at a 254 MP cast. So I think we'll see it a little bit less often this go around, which I am totally fine with as a Ultima hater myself. So, but I am not the entire community, and the community likes the big blue bubble as a whole. So we give the people what they want, and
that's what we do around here.
We're going to be starting here in just a second. But what is Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide? For those of you that have accidentally stumbled onto this page on Twitch, well, it is a open world randomizer for Final Fantasy VI, or Final Fantasy III as it was known in the US and Canada. So you start out with the airship. You can go anywhere you want in the game. However, the only things that give you rewards are based on the world events that your characters in your party currently unlock. So in this randomizer, the goal is to kill Final Kefka, which we need to unlock with 6 characters and 9 espers. Those are those gold numbers on the bottom there on the tracker. We do start with 3 characters, so we only have to recruit 3 additional ones with 9 pieces of shiny stone there. And we give our runners 3 Moogle Charms so that they can equip them with the relic slot and not walk into those random encounters on the battle. Or you could take the Moogle Charm off if you want to grind a few and say uncurse that shield there at 7 or 8. There are no dragons that are required in this flag set, but as we mentioned earlier, you can get what is called the Kefka Tower skip and skip into where the statue spots are with 22 checks. And a dragon counts as a check. So it is very beneficial to go for dragons for check skip, but Glue, what are some other reasons why we might hunt a dragon or 2 in this seed?
Well, one thing dragons do give us is they give us 3 things that are really important for a Worlds Collide run. They give us a bunch of experience, they give us a bunch of ability points, plus they give us your vanilla drop, so that's a crystal orb, that's a muscle belt. But even better, we do get a high tier item from the item pool as a reward, and that item can be an Illumina, it could be an experience egg, it can be an offering, it could be the best helmet in the game, a cat hood, it could be a number of things that will help us on our quest to defeat Final Kefka and all the things that stand between us. So just a great take if you take on some dragons, even though you know it counts as a check as mentioned, but just the rewards you get it that we're going to assist you in your future fights are a huge boon.
All right, so a few things happening while we're talking about dragons. We've got our calmness protection already in the form of Fenrir at the Norse Weapon Shop. That's one of Locke's checks. So we do have Locke with Morph, Strega with Slots, and Shadow with Bannon's health ability. Those are the randomized abilities for our characters. And there's also an Esper Starlet at Gal Manor. That's where Nobody War went. So our runners already have at least 1 shiny stone. Curse Shield at 11. Ooh. That is right on the edge there of what I would actually go to uncurse with, depending upon my characters and their abilities. What about you, Glue? Thoughts on an 11 battle Curse Shield?
That double digit point is right about the deal breaker. That's when you say deal or no deal, and that's when I say no deal. But also keep in mind, that Curse Shield does teach us Ultima, and if we don't come across something better that maybe that 11 battle Curse Shield may look a little more attractive as our runners progress throughout the seed.
Yeah, I did see some pretty decent spells on that Fenrir Esper as Zelfer picks up his second at Gal Manor there. So perhaps we will be using other spells other than Ultima. As I mentioned, Ultima costs 254 MP, and it's going to be a little bit before we get enough MP to cast that, unless we come across a gold hairpin or an economizer. Bolt 2 is the spell. Okay, so maybe it's not. I thought that might have been a Bolt 3 there, and Starlet's got nothing really of note.
Well, Starlet had Quick, so Quick is fantastic. You can get sooner rather than later. That way you can just throw it on your characters at this point in time. And by the end of the seed, you can have all 4 characters with Quick. And that makes your tower climb so much safer because they essentially act 2 turns instead of 1 each turn.
Yeah, I'll admit I definitely have a blind spot when it comes to quick. I don't use it all that often, so I tend to forget about it a little bit. But thank you for selling me straight as Nobody War pulls a ribbon out of a barrel, and that'll be really important if they do want to uncurse the shield, because the curse shield gives you all sorts of negative status ailments in addition to really bad stats. But that ribbon will mitigate the effects of the curse shield, so we are looking for that, or maybe a peace ring to at least mitigate the muddled property of the curse shield there.
I got a question for you, Swans.
Sure.
We do have 2 espers right away.
Mm-hmm.
We do have one more free check available to us, but it is just the longest free check in the game, and that is Phoenix Cave. Do you think one of our 4 runners will go to Phoenix Cave and utilize that free check?
Yeah, that's an interesting call here, because there is a dragon in the Phoenix Cave that you can go to if you really so desire and choose. Our abilities here, Slots is really the only one that sticks out at me as something that can at least clear some AoE mobs pretty effectively with use of, like Chocobop and 7 Flush and things like that. But not a lot of incentive. I think it'll depend on what we find in the treasure in maybe the South Figaro basement and some of these other places that our runners are going to, because the chests are randomized as well as the items that are being sold in shops. So if we find some good stuff, then maybe we skip the Phoenix Cave. And if we don't find good things, then Phoenix Cave is a place where there is either 8 or 9 treasure chests in there. So you can dig something out of there that maybe another runner doesn't get to and get an advantage that way.
Here's why I would be very tempted to go to the Phoenix Cave at this point in time. Because if you look at our characters that we started with, we essentially have 2 checks that are really uncomfortable. After South Figaro Cave, which is one of the Locks checks, and then Cave on the Belt, which is one of the Shadows checks, we have to make a hard decision. We either go start doing Stragos checks, who has the least desirable checks in the game, or we go to Floating Continent. And if you go to Floating Continent anywhere from level 3 to level 10, it's a huge risk because you have to spend so much time before you start encountering your bosses. And then you have to spend a large amount of time traversing the continent without easy access to a save point to get to the second half. And when your offense isn't very well developed, you're at very much risk of being walled at one of the tougher bosses. And with Floating Continent, you have to commit a lot of time to find out if you're going to get walled or not. So a huge risk on the play with some of these checks if there's not a character at some of the faster checks available to us.
Yeah, which means you're hoping that you get another character at Phoenix Cave, one with more desirable checks. Thunder Shield there, as Night Dew shows us in the world of Balance, South Figaro. So again, another way for our runners to learn Bolt 2, besides that Fenrir Esper that they dug out of the Norse weapon shop there. So that to me is enough to say, between Slots and the Thunder Shield or the Bolt 2, that to me personally is enough to go up to Floating Continent, because you'll presumably learn the spell on the way up there and then use it against either the first or second boss, depending upon what you find. But that is certainly a risky play, because if one of those 2 bosses is something you can't defeat, you're stuck back on the ground. And unlike in the vanilla game, you don't get to keep all the levels and things that you've accumulated before that game over. You're stuck back at level 3. So it's very risky. So for me, I think Slots is good enough for early on, but we'll see what our runners decide to do here.
Yeah, it really comes down to what is your risk appetite? How hungry do you want to be chasing this victory? Because you could potentially lose the race if that is the Magimaster up there, if you're the first one to come across it. Whereas, let's say in one of Block's checks, one of the rewards is a Valiant Knife, and there's an offering on the way there. That would give you the requisite equipment to handle that Magimaster. But if you run into him before you come across that, and your other runners on screen all get that luxury, that could be a race ender right there.
Yeah, so did see an ice rod as well in the South Figaro basement, so that's another something that I could use as a get-out-of-jail-quick card to throw at a boss. Also, I did think I saw, and maybe this is me just seeing things and pretending I saw something that I liked, but I know our runners picked up an Imp Halberd spear. I know there are Dragoon boots for sale in a relic shop, and I'm pretty sure there's some Imp armor somewhere else. So if we see an Imp jump strat, I will be a very happy camper on the stream somewhere. I might have been hallucinating the armor, but I'm pretty sure I saw it.
It looks like we got Nobody War trying to take some encounters while he's in his Narsh now. This is just to get off his level 3, which I think he's already level 5 from his first encounter.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, run. If he had Bolt 2, this would be a fantastic encounter, but you don't have Bolt 2 yet, so you might want to get out of there, because this is why. Brain Blast hurts.
Even with Bolt 2, these are Kefka Tower. That's a Kefka Tower enemy mob. So how the randomizer works with the random encounters is they are shuffled amongst the battlefield. So you will find encounters that are normally in one place in a different spot. And sometimes the magic is just going to different spots here. One other option that we didn't consider, Glue, I know we sort of glossed over Strago's checks, but what about Casa del Fuego as an option for getting your levels and potentially fighting a boss and getting a check at the end of it, aka the Burning House?
If you held a gun to my head,
oh god, that's another.
Is Nobody War gonna go to the Burning House right away? There is no amount of money, no amount of pressure. I would say no, he wouldn't. And the reason for that is Nobody War likes to go off the beaten path. He likes to do things that other people will not do. Mm-hmm. And the reason Burning House is kind of the same reason where Floating Continent is not that enticing, and he's just getting some awful battles no matter where he goes. But nevertheless, Burning House, you have to commit a lot of time. You have to make you're gonna run into about 5 or 6 flames as you are progressing through. And if those flames are awful encounters, and then they don't give experience because you only get 2 different formations in there. So you're kind of out of luck, if you will, and then you're just so much worse off when that boss is even tougher at the end. So similar mindset to traversing the Floating Continent is how much risk do you want to invest this early? How much risk are you willing to tolerate to get your first check underneath your belt?
Yeah, Nobody War realizing is there's a dragon horn in Phoenix Cave. So you did mention Phoenix Cave. It looks like Zelfer is in there. So it looks like we can do a Dragoon boot. That is a real cheap Zen Thief Esper as well, 3,200 for Honeydew, grabbing his 3rd Esper there with Shoat. Flame Shield in a pot for Nobody War. I think nice. Like I said, you have slots. I even forgot that Shadow has health. So normally in the Burning House, part of the problem is there's no save point for you to do a tent or sleeping bags or anything like that before the boss. But if you have health, you could sort of regain anything that you end up losing in the course of going through the Burning House. And our first boss fight is underway here from Night 2, fighting Welk at South Figaro Cave. So this is the wrong cave for this snail.
Yeah, you can't use health outside of battle, but again, in Burning House, as Nobody War is showing us, you're going to fight a lot of flames. So once you kind of get past your level 3 or level 5, and they're no longer a threat, you could usually just spend a turn casting health, and it's no big deal to you.
Yeah, and slots with either Chocobop or 7 Flush will clear out most enemy mobs pretty quickly here, especially if you have earrings. Slots, those commands are based on magic power, so earrings will buff this, and this is going to be also a great boon of money and MP, not necessarily XP for these Cactrots, but very high physical and magical defense. So unless you can hit it with a 7 Flush or a Chocobop, you're going to be in trouble here. So let's see what Nobody War has to offer.
0 for 1 on his first attempt, but 1 for 2, and yeah, Cactrot will not give experience, but he gives so much money and he gives so much ability points that he's one of the few fights without experience that you want to take anyways. As you can see, 18,500 at this level. That's ridiculous.
Dollar bills, y'all. Night Dew, by the way, I think he got past. No, he did not. He reset out of Welk because he's heading back into Gal Manor to pick up that Esper.
So the Phoenix Cave plays off for Zelfer. Kind of, because it is a character, so great news. He doesn't have to do Strago's checks, but the bad news is he has to use Gogo's check. 1 check if he wants to see if there's a character down that path, and it's arguably not much better.
Pearl Rod in a shop there for Honeydew, so usually when I see a rod in a shop, I sell at least as much as I can to maybe get 1 of those particular rods, and a Pearl Rod is very cost effective at the same price as a Fire Rod, but it will do way more damage than a Fire Rod does. As we see Nobody War doing some Curse Shield shenanigans here. If you equip the Curse Shield after the fight starts, you don't get the ill effects of the Curse Shield. You do get the negative stats and the magic badness of it, if you will. So Knuckley, our wonderful tracker for tonight, shout out to Knuckley again, said that tunnel armor was the behemoth suit. Okay, he did get past the Welk fight and it was nothing. Fair enough.
Nobody were having a little bit of trouble getting his 7 flush down. I think he's actually going for Chocobop. You can
because Chocobop ignores defense and 7 flush does not, and Cactrot has very high magical defense. You see those Chocobops coming, or the 7 flushes coming in at 1 damage per deal.
So here's the bad news about Cactrot is he only has one ability he likes to use, and you can't survive that ability when you're level 6. Because actually, you know what? I'm mistaken.
Elemental scaling, thank you.
Today I learned, because in the vanilla game he only uses 1,000 needles, or excuse me, Blowfish, which is 1,000 needles, does 1,000 damage, and if you have 156 HP, max HP, you can't survive that. Nobody progresses through his burning house. He is trying to avoid the flame. That is a mistake. Just accept your fate. Oh no, I think he didn't want to run from that, but he had a preemptive encounter, so now he has no choice.
Oh. So Night Dew is in the cave on the Veldt, and did you see who was laying down on the ground there?
I did not.
Well, I'll let your reaction in real time happen. So elemental scaling is a thing in Worlds Collide that we do, where the abilities of the enemies are scaled with the element that they would normally use. So for instance, Flame Eater uses fire and fire 2, and in Worlds Collide, if Flame Eater gets scaled upwards based on, the scaling options of the flag set, then he might cast things like Fire 3 or S-Cross or other more powerful fire abilities. And the bosses in Worlds Collide are scaled based on the number of characters, espers, and dragons that we've killed in Ultra Sleek standard flags. So the Cactrot Blowfish might get scaled down to, say, Osmose, which somehow is a non-elemental spell that it can cast. Anyway, Night Dew taking out another easy boss with Ultros there. Getting Terra with Rage. Very nice.
Yeah, Rage is a fantastic ability. I do cringe a little bit when I see Rage on a natural Atma weapon user, because now that character can no longer use the Atma weapon due to the Rage command blocking them, because it's very glitchy. So it's just not allowed, or it's just disallowed, excuse me.
Yeah, we've disabled it in the code because it can crash the game and do other fun things.
So he's looking, Night Dew is looking through his rage list now. I've seen Punisher, which does Bolt 3. I've seen, he just saw Gold Bear, and he also had Cactrot. So that's a pretty impressive selection of rages. Cactrot will carry you very far early on, and we're still very early where Cactrot will be effective for Night Dew if he likes to use it. But Gold Bear is arguably the second best rage you can have.
Yeah, so that does what? Oh, there's the dog pet validation of the seed.
Very nice.
That's what, a 2.5 times physical damage rage?
Yep. So he has a 50% chance to do a physical attack, or he has a 50% chance to do whatever his Gold Bear's ability is called. I forget, but basically it does your physical attack and adds a 2.5 multiplier on it, and that gets out of hand very, very fast. It's very, very easy to get the quad 9s with the Gold Bear, almost no matter what you have. Ooh.
So we have a lot of runners here in Thamasa, in the world of Ruin.
I think this is one of those, I'm going to go there because nobody else is going to go there play, but they're all thinking the same thing. So,
and oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Yeah, this is very interesting here, especially having Terra early, right? We can go to the cave to the sealed gate and raid that Imperial camp with all that delicious treasure. Another easy boss leader here at the end of the burning house. Nothing to really worry about here for our runners. So thankfully, anybody who's done this has paid off, except for Locke for Nobody War. He's down on the ground, and I don't know if do we have any Phoenix Downs?
I would say yes, we don't, because if he did, I think he would have been picked up before the battle.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, let's see what Night Dew. Night Dew is in Casa del Fuego. He can just get on his phone, go to Travelocity.com, and he can book a stay himself. But again, with this Terror play, he has access to a fantastic amount of treasure chest. Ooh, that's Setzer at the end of that. This is quite a bit of divergence.
Yeah, so Setzer is yet another Sphere 1 character here, it seems, in our checks. We've got Gogo at South Figaro. No, where the hell was Gogo?
Phoenix Cave.
And Burning House now has Setzer. And yeah, so we could have very big branching paths. And that's one of the things I really like about Worlds Collide is it's not particularly or necessarily a key item hunt randomizer. You can have multiple paths through a seed because it's just a how many characters and espers can I do to unlock Kefka, or what objective really do I have to unlock Kefka, which is pretty cool.
Ooh, Zelfer's showing off a nice play. If you go into one of the doors that doesn't allow you to progress through the Burning House, you do get a different encounter. And showing off the Trickster encounter, because as we saw Nobody War for the past 10 minutes, he was fighting Sandrays and Cactrots. But there is another Kuiper counter formation in there if you go through some of the doors you're not supposed to.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this encounter doesn't give any XP. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the Naughty. It's the same sprite, yeah. It's a different character.
These
look at what's on the way to the floating continent here for Night Dew.
Very interesting that Night Dew is going to the floating continent this early. It's because he hasn't done the Imperial Camp. That would have been the first thing I'd do. That is the first thing a lot of people will do, even if they come across Terror later in the sea, just because it's so many treasure chests in such a quick spot.
Yeah, it's hard to resist the treasure, and I think Honey went to the Colon Janin, which is one of Setzer's checks, and picked up an Esper. Looking at his tracker there, I must have missed that, or he did either that or he didn't do it yet, and I just accidentally spoiled it on stream. Sorry, everybody.
He did find warp stones there, and that's the first warp stone sighting we've seen, and that is huge because we know Gogo is available. We know we have a couple other spots where we can go where warp stone could be used, such as World of Ruin Narsh. You can you can climb World of Ruin Narsh and not have to walk back out. So that's a huge boon for Honeydew.
I think I saw Zelfer picking up some before. Yeah, go ahead, Joker.
Yeah, so this is the restreamer. Dr. DT in chat points out that we do have 3 Sphere 0 characters, so that's our entire character limit just right out at the beginning if people go searching for it.
Coliseum play for Honeydew here, and there's a lot of stuff in that Coliseum. There were snipers. There was an offering on the table as well. So maybe we come back to that for later if we can't find better offense. Snipers are kind of a tier below the really, really great powerful swords because of the ability to proc a 3 times damage on a flying target or a 1.5 on other targets. I
think doesn't Locke have Morph?
Locke has Morph, that is correct.
So Morph does multiply sniper damage, so when you get that double multiplier on top of the flying proc, it gets up there fast. It escalates very, very, very quickly. So let's see if Honeydew goes back for some snipers later. He doesn't need that quite yet, but that is a very much end game build.
I heard there'd be no math on stream. Glue, don't make me do it. Maths on maths. And we got Kefka in the sky here for Night Dew as the first of 2 bosses in the floating continent. We also have a painting in the sky for the Chad. We got 2 airship fights, one in the World of Balance, one in the World of Ruin with the Search the Sky, and Nobody War is going to burn one of his flame shields here. I think that was the one he found in Damasa.
Yeah, as you should. Chatternook has quite a robust pool of HP, so the sooner you get through that, the better.
Yeah, and it is going to be unfortunate because you lose that elemental ability there. But if you've taught a few of your characters Fire 2 already, then that's at least one less reason to do it. Honeydew, meanwhile, pulling out the Tritalk Esper summon, knowing that the shell will absorb the HP, but the head won't. So that's a really nice usage of a tactic we don't often get to see, as the shell does absorb lightning. So if you hit the shell with lightning, you won't get the counter attacks that Vix and Wedge really urge you not to poke the shell with.
And Night Dew is through boss number 2, the Air Force spot. That was just tonal armor, so machine, but different machine. One that arguably we shouldn't be flying, but that's another discussion. So he is through the first half of Floating Continent, and he's going to get an Esper for his first spot. 2 more pieces of progression possibly lay here for Night Dew. Well, at least 1, possibly 2, will be up here.
Alexander is the Esper there. It's supposed to be called tunnel armor, not flying armor. Question from the chat from Tharkus. What's the range on the Curse Shield in Worlds Collide? So for Ultra Sleek settings, it is between 7 and 15 battles to uncurse the shield. You can make it whatever the heck you want if you go to ff6worldscollide.com, anywhere from 1 to 255, or you could make it a range, such as anywhere from 1 to 255. And then when that Curse Shield becomes uncursed, it becomes the Paladin Shield, the best defensive piece of equipment in the game, absorbs 4 elements, nullifies the other 4, and has the highest, I think, physical defense out of any shield in the game there. Tritok is the Esper with magic power +2 in Kolingen. So people that took Setzer right away over to Kolingen will be rewarded with that really nice Esper.
What are the 8 elements in Final Fantasy VI Swans?
So the 8 elements are fire, ice, wind, and water. Then there's thunder, so that's 5. There's pearl, that's 6. Poison is 7. And earth is the last one. We don't get to see a lot. Impressive. Thank you. We don't get to see a lot of those elements, as there's ice rods that Zelfer just picked up there. Mostly it's fire, ice, and thunder, or lightning are the main 3 elemental spells, and the rest get a little bit less shine. There are some spells here and there that will do that, but it's mostly relegated to things like Lures will do most of your water spells. The Pearl spell will do Pearl or Holy Magic, things like that.
Yeah, there's a Pearl element, Holy element, but it's only 1 spell. I do want to correct you. You said lightning or thunder. It is bolt.
Whatever the hell it is.
That is
okay?
an egregious mistake for which I apologize on Swan's behalf.
Well, listen, maybe we should hire better commentators to know what the heck they're talking about.
Probably.
Zelfer is going to take those warp stones over to Zone Eater here. So there are about like 7 or 8 or 9 treasure chests in the Zone Eater belly. We don't want to get to 2 of them, which means we got thrown off the bridge. So chat, what do we think? Is Zelfer going to get thrown off or not? I think he is.
He's risking it for the biscuit because he just went for the first chest that is not on the required path. This is the one that is readily available. He utilizes...
That was a cheat.
Utilizes a little known tactic. Nevertheless, he is through. Don't worry though, we still have one more chance to get him. This ceiling can sneak up on you, literally and figuratively.
Speaking of sneaking up on you, it's a dabbing Yeti for the second boss of the floating continent. Siren is sleeping at Daryl's tomb, and we've got 2 of our runners in the floating continent now. Honey is starting it. Night Dew is about halfway there. Whoa, he's living on a prayer.
Speaking of the Yumaro sighting, Joker does have a nice little challenge that he has thrown out to the community. It is called the Yumaro. You have to defeat Yumaro using only the Yumaro challenge, and to date, there are only 2 people that have completed that challenge, and that is Joker and myself.
Well, considering I will bench Umaro as soon as I get him, I will not be completing that challenge anytime soon. But that is Realm in Zone Eater Belly. Why did you swallow a kid? Wow, so Zelfer already has his 6 characters. Now, Glue, when you already get one of your pieces of Go mode, does that change up how you play the rest of the seed?
Yes and no. It really... I'm a big believer in if I have a new character check, or if I have a check that's guaranteed to give me more likely to give me an Esper, but I have a check on the other side that's much faster, I like to tend to just do the much faster the check and just kind of lay it to the wind a little bit. Let that tell me, am I just going to have this bad RNG? And I like to do the faster checks and the bunched up checks and then see where it takes me. Let the course lay as it lies. But there's an argument for either way, because now that Zelfer has all of his characters that he needs for to unlock Final Kefka, he just now needs 6 more Espers, and you are more likely to find Espers in your starting character's checks. I believe me, I see the irony in that, since we have 3 characters hidden in our starting character checks, but typically that is where you can find them. So he may start doing some backtracking here, but in his scenario, when he starts doing some backtracking, he's going to find his Terra as well.
Yeah, so when I usually get one of my Go mode, that switches up my thinking and my thought process. So now that Zelfer has 6 characters, I'm going to tend to favor checks which result in Esper item versus character Esper item or even character Esper, right? And it looks like he's heading up to the top of Narsh, which is where the Tritalk check is, that's open to all over, or it's not character gated. And he's going to hit up a dragon here and probably just go down the line of checks that maybe you could peek or the ones that you know are Esper item. Night Dew grabbed Kieran at the second floating continent spot. Nobody wore. Did grab 2 more Espers, the one at the Colingen Inn and that Daryl's Tomb one. I believe it was Siren, which is a really nice Esper to have for Final Kefka, by the way.
And why is that?
So Final Kefka, one of the parts of the boss is named Magic, which casts magic. Thanks, Square. Real clever there with the naming scheme. But is also hilariously susceptible to mute, which is what Siren's Esper summon is. So, strength +2 and Merton and Meteor.
Unbelievable.
Nice
that is an Esper. I tell you what.
First Dragon of the Seed down for Zelfer, so he'll get a boatload of XP, 50 NP, probably wanting to teach that uncursed Paladin shield, trying to get to Ultima, so that's probably one of the reasons why he tried to route in a dragon right here. And then he'll go up and see what the Tritalk spot is.
Another Dragon Horn for Zelfer, so that's his second one. He did warn Merton and Ultima from that fight. I know I think he has 3 pieces of Merton protection, so he is 1 short of being able to fire Merton away at will. But if he keeps doing dragons, he's likely to come across another piece of that protection because they can drop Minervas, they can drop the elemental shields.
Yeah, that's also a really good
that
point.
way.
All right, so Night Dew finishing off the floating continent. 3 for 3 for Espers there. That is a lovely floating continent. That's Carbuncle with Pearl there in the 3rd spot from the floating continent. So Honeydew is also going to be able to grab their 3 Espers here, as we have our other runners in other spots, including a toilet Atmos sighting here for Zelfer at the top of Narsh. So remember when I talked about the more common elements and the not as common elements? Atma will absorb all of the uncommon elements, wind, water, poison, earth, and pearl, and will be weak to the more common ones, ice, fire, and bolt. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Made sure I correctly stated that. Night Dew picking up his Esper there at the Zen Thief. So our runners are flying through the seed. We are a half an hour in now, and we're doing pretty darn good here.
We're doing amazing. We got 6-4, 6-3, 5-4, 6-4 at the 30-minute mark. If I am any of these runners with that type of progression at this point in time, I am feeling great. Offense is coming along. It's getting well developed. Everybody has found something that they can cook with, that can get them through the rest of the seed. This is turning out to be a real good one. Yeah,
so now it just, as we mentioned, it depends on how efficient are you with your checks, because Zelfer has got his characters. He's just looking for Espers now, versus our other runners still need a little bit of both, a mixture of 1 and 2. As Zelfer does get an Esper there at the top of Narsh, so that'll be nice for him. And he's got those warp stones that we saw at the end of Zone Eater. Unfortunately, can't go down into the Yeti hole because he does not have Umaro.
Nope. The good news for Zelfer, as we saw from Night Dew, and we'll see from Honeydew, is that if he does choose to go to Floating Continent here shortly, that is 3 for 3 on Espers. And it takes you anywhere from 9 to 11 minutes to get through Floating Continent. And if he chooses to go up there, we've seen the bosses. He has the requisite equipment to get through this. He could be sitting at about 6 and 7 at the 40-minute mark, which is even better than 6 and 4.
Yeah,
I'll double check beyond that.
Yeah, the thing is, the math checks out there. The thing with Floating Continent is when you have characters already, I think you usually tend to fade Floating Continent a little bit, because Floating Continent's 1st and 3rd spot offer either character Esper as a reward, right? So maybe this is just my bias here, but usually I find a character on the Floating Continent. So that's why I tend to shy away from it if I already have my character go mode. However, that's obviously not the right thing to do in this seed, and I'm in the commentary booth and not running, so why are we taking my advice anyway?
I think with Zelfer's choices, though, he's trying to do his Esper-only checks, because we've seen him do the Tritalk spot, Now we're seeing him do Search the Skies.
Mhm.
I think he's just trying to do all this now so he can kind of weight that decision. Do I want to do Strago's long rest checks, or do I just want to do Shadow's one long check, but I can get through it faster for the progression per minute I'm investing? So I think he's just trying to narrow down the longer choices he has to make in the future.
We did also see from Night Dew taking out the Opera House Dragon, the Blue Dragon, that the drop of the reward was a Flame Shield. So that is where that last piece of Burton protection will come in for Zelfer if he chooses to go there. Night Dew looks like they are going to be doing some of Terra's checks, leaning into the character that they have that I don't think anybody else has at this point. So we'll see the Welk spot, and maybe we'll see Kefka at Narsh afterwards.
Nope, he is still the only one to find Terra, and maybe we got a Umaro sighting, ladies and gentlemen. This is exciting stuff. Let's see if he'll keep him in the party or bump one of his characters for Umaro.
Well, I mean, I know what I would do, and I know what you would do, and I also know what Knuckly Kong or Tracker would do.
What would Joker do, by the way?
WWJD. It's like the actual bracelet. He must be. He's deafened, so unfortunately we're not going to get his input here.
He probably fainted when he saw Umaro, so I can't blame him. I almost did as well.
Zelfer deciding to pay the World of Ruin inflation price of $64,000 for that to Zen Thief. It was $3,200 in the World of Balance. Do we tell him the bad news after the race, Glue? Do we make him upset?
I don't think it matters, because when you take down the amount of cactrots he did, you can't take it with you to the afterlife. So if you spend it, you spend it. It's no big deal.
As my father-in-law once said, you don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard. So Zelfer, seeing that he's going to Ebbett's Rock here, rather. Night Dew seeing the Siren Esper on the tomb. Or is that where Honeydew is? I'm sorry, that's where Honeydew is. I'm getting
Honeydew is about to get his Honeydew is about to get his Siren. Night Dew is done with his Welk check. I'm really curious where Night Dew is going to go next, because Welk Gate was the first Terra check we've seen him explore, and I think what he'll probably do now is flip on over and explore the other World of Ruin Narsh, but we'll see.
Well, we did not see a character coming out of that Yeti hole, so that means it's either an Esper or an item at Umaro's cave. And he doesn't have his 6th character yet, so I assume that he's going to look for the 6th character before he goes up to the World of Ruin Narsh. I would wait until I get all of my characters and know that I need just Espers to do that. Try talk at Ebbett's Rock here. Thankfully, we have Fire too. Yeah, so Dr. DT pointing out in the chat, for those that don't know, if you go and kill the Welk spot with Terra, you can get the item that you left behind at the weapon shop behind Welk. You just walk into where that Narsh guard pops out of, and there is an NPC at the back there where you can grab the 2nd item from the Narsh weapon shop.
Yeah, the second check.
Oh no, does he think it's in the Moogle cave?
Oh no, this is unfortunate. This is Night Dew's first seed he has run in a while, so he may just have a little bit of confusion. Maybe he just realized it. I think he did. He does have warp stones, though.
Yeah, so the Moogle mines in the World of Ruin is where you go and get the other item that you don't pick from Lone Wolf. So a little bit of crisscross applesauce there for Night Dew.
But that's okay. He realized the error of his ways, and now he's going back onto the quick path up to some pieces of progression.
You know, you haven't really played a Worlds Collide seed until you forgot to activate Lone Wolf, but you also haven't played a Worlds Collide seed until you've mixed up Lone Wolf and the Narsh weapon shop either. So he's validated his seed in multiple ways with the dog pet and the other way there. Meanwhile, I believe Zelfer picked an Esper out of Ebbett's Rock there. So he's on his 7th now, and very quickly he's amassing what I would call an advantage, right? Because he's already got all of his characters and just needs 2 more Espers for go.
Yeah, well, Honeydew does have 8 Espers. He only has 4 characters, and there are 14 characters in Worlds Collide, or Final Fantasy VI, and 27 Espers. So you're more likely to come across Espers before you come across characters. He is, however, going to come across a character as he's going to the Cave on Belt here, and we do know that Terra almost leads to another immediate character, so he can quickly catch up here.
Another dragon here for Night Dew. And is going to get the Esper at the top of here, and we do not know what's in Umaro's cave yet. Zelfer did not have Umaro when he went up here before. And thankfully, as Tharkus mentions in chat, we have Paladin shields, we have Flame shields, so this red dragon's not going to be much of a problem there.
Where did Zelfer get his realm at? I forgot.
Realm was in Zone Eater, and
Oh, that's right, that's
was Phoenix Cave. Right?
Yeah, that's right. So he's the only one that will come across that realm in this whatever is our world's path. We don't know because Zelfer hasn't told us yet.
All right, so it looks like we got Oh My Goddess at Esper Mountain here, using those ice rods that he picked up earlier. Goddess, very high magical defense, but rods will cut through your magic defense, doing a maximum damage tier 2 version of whatever element you're throwing. So, and then Lock on top of that stacks with the morph damage, so just Phil Swift, a lot of damage going on over there for Zelfer.
What does Morph do as an ability, Schwantz, other than turning you into this cool-looking sprite?
Yeah, so what Morph will do is it doubles any damage output that you have, either physical or magical, as we get a Valiant Knife there for Lock. Immediately, Zelfer is saying thank you for that upgrade. And Morph also will cut your magical damage or incoming magical damage in half. Not physical damage, but magic damage gets cut in half, and it doubles whatever damage output you do, physical or magical. And how Morph works is the meter is based on how much MP you have quote-unquote acquired throughout the seed. It maxes out at 256 MP, and when you drain it all the way back down, in order to build that meter back up, you just learn MP over time. So for instance, Night Dew is fighting Atma. Atma gives 40 MP as a boss reward. So that'll basically fill up 40 out of 256 or 255 of that Morph meter. So Morph, you should probably use it a couple of times a seed. Saving it up all for the end, you probably will gain more than 256 or 255, whatever it is, MP throughout the seed. So I tend to also forget about it. So that's not just a Zelfer thing where he's just used it the once so far in the run. I know myself and a lot of other runners, we tend to undervalue what Morph can bring to the table a little bit.
Honeydew is giving our Imperial Treasure Room our first glimpse of that. And inside there we had an Ice Shield, a Minerva, and a Genji Glove, plus the other junk that who cares about. But those were the three main things I saw him grab. That's exciting. I'm always a big fan of the Genji Glove, even if you don't have the requisite equipment now. Because especially if you are floating with check skip, you can barely quickly, when you start trying to hammer out some dragons or the various parts of Kefka's Tower that are not a traditional check, as far as piece of progression, but just to kind of round about your number, you can barely quickly come across two big swords and utilize that Genji Glove fast. So while worthless now, it can become very useful, and you're glad you had it in the future.
All right, so where are we at now? Zelfer just completed the Esper Mountain check. I didn't quite see what the reward was. Maybe Knuckly Kong will chime in and let us know. Or if maybe you saw it, Glue.
I just wanted to hear Knuckly's beautiful voice.
Knife.
Yeah.
Oh, the Valiant Knife, that's right.
Yeah. I knew that. I just wanted to hear Knuckly's beautiful voice.
Of course you did. And we're getting a glimpse at a couple new checks here, and it's an Esper removing the Magicite from the Umaro check, and then Honey is going to give us our first glimpse here at the Cave to the Sealed Gate.
Ooh, another Genji Glove.
Wow.
I kind of fawned a little bit over the one. The second one I'm not so much a fan of, because then you kind of need four swords instead of two, and really at that point you're
You're
hoping a little too much. Yeah, you're hoping for too much. You're getting a little greedy there with your hopes and prayers.
Yeah, it's good to sell the second Genji Glove for things that you need, rods, right, or consumables. A lot of times it's difficult to find healing in some of these seeds, so if you find a shop with an elixir or an X potion, you could certainly dump a lot of that money into that there, as that is another Esper at the end of the Sealed Gate cave.
That is Torado.
So Honey just needs to find character number 6, Meanwhile, Zelfer is going to get Esper number 8 here from Daryl's Tomb and is looking for that offering. So maybe that's a reason, Glue, why he's choosing Daryl's Tomb with this monster in a box here.
Yeah, this might be the first monster in a box we've seen because we haven't seen the Narsh one. We saw numerous runners pass on the Floating Continent one. Let's see what it is. You have a 1 in 11 chance of getting the one you really, really want, and
That's
0 for 1, but 10 more chances to go, possibly.
I think we did see somebody dig in the Aloe Vera monster in a box earlier on in the seed. I remember running into that monster at some point. But no sign of Katana Soul yet. We do have several different options for monster in a boxes. We have Velt Cave, we have the one on Floating Continent, we have the one in Daryl's Tomb, and we have the 2 in Narsh, the one in the Beginner's House here, where Night Dew is, and we have another one where Night Dew just was in the Yeti Cave.
So Honeydew is going to do the Welt Gate check here. We know this is a character. What do you think Honeydew's plan is? Because he's going to get his character. His levels are in the high 20s, level 30. It's a little shorter than where you want him to be. Do you think he's going to do a dragon and go into the tower, or do you think he's going straight in? What do you think the plan here is for Honeydew?
Oh, well, the plan for Honeydew is either going to fight a dragon, or another thing that I actually like doing is overloading my party in the 3rd lane, put my full party there, and then take on not only the dragon that's in Kefka's Tower, but also take on that Inferno boss, because you're going to have to fight that Inferno boss anyway, and if you do it with your full party, you'll do it way faster than you would if you were to split your party up. Plus, it gives your entire party even more XP. The problem is, if it's the Ultros Chupon fight, you're going to hate yourself for it.
Yes, indeed. The downside to that is you have to walk Kefka's Tower twice, and we're really not in any realm of getting the check skip for either of our runners because we're only 1 dragon in on Zelfer's screen plus the 1 dead check, which was a Valiant Knife. He's going to Kev on the belt now. This is going to be Terra. This is not going to be what he wants to see. But Terra does give you access to a lot of checks, so he still may take this anyways, just so he can start utilizing some of those other checks in his choices.
Yeah, Honey's at 15 checks right now on his tracker. Zelfer at 14 checks after getting his 8th Esper at Daryl's Tomb. Digging in the monster in a boxes, like we mentioned there. Night Dew, meanwhile, is fighting in Fanatic's Tower, which is one of Strago's checks that we mentioned before. So we've seen all 3 of Strago's checks thus far. The Fanatic's Tower's gimmick is that you can only use magic within Fanatic's Tower, and there is a guaranteed Esper or character at the bottom, and we saw it was an NPC sprite, so this is a guaranteed Esper at the bottom of Fanatics. And you get a high-tier item at the top where the gem box would normally be. So this is a pretty lucrative check. It counts as 3 different checks, 4 if you take on the... 3 different checks
if you take on the
dragon. Yep, there you go. Thank you. So it is very check dense. However, this is similar to Floating Continent. It just takes a while to get through.
Mm-hmm. Depending on how long your top fight takes, so your dragon fight typically doesn't take too long, as long as you have some magic running through the belt, but it takes you about anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes to get through Fanatic's Tower. A little longer if on the rougher side, but that is incredibly efficient for getting 3 checks underneath your belt, although at the expense of only 1 piece of progression.
Not to interrupt, but the dragon in Fanatic's Tower gave the offering.
Oh, nice. There's a good chance Zelfer goes there because we need some peekable. Nice, even better. All the more reason to go there every time.
Yeah, but then we get to tease Zelfer for doing all 3 of Strago's checks on stream.
Looks like Honeydew's going right into the tower. I didn't see his party comp, but I know Fanatic's Tower when I see it. I think he might be doing a full right and clear.
Yeah, so I wouldn't do a full right clear. I wouldn't necessarily go up the middle, because that's just too much backtracking. But doing the take on Inferno, take on the dragon, and then see where you're at for levels, I think that's a pretty decent plan. But oh geez, look at what is at the top of Fanatic's Tower. This is going to be a difficult fight. And the only reason it's going to be a difficult fight is because you can only use magic in Fanatic's Tower. And the second phase of Doom, he gets the reflect status, which means whatever is, he's he's rubber and you're glue sort of deal. Or
I
you're
see
glue.
what you did there. The good news is Reflect is not forever in Final Fantasy VI. It will go away after about 4 to 5 ATB fulls, or ticks, if you will. You can also get rid of it with the Dispel spell, cast it on it, and that Reflect will go away. And then in Doom's case, it won't come back.
Yeah, so the other interesting thing is we do have Meteor, which is a spell that cannot be reflected, but I do not see every character with it. And unfortunately, one of the only ways to cure this frozen status is to hit your own party with fire. Thankfully, we've got enough Paladin and Flame Shields where that's not really a problem there.
So Zelfer has Brent Protection now, so he's gonna, he still needs the one more Esper, but he's gonna coast through so much stuff. And the good news is he's at a spot where there was an Esper if he goes all the way through the end of this, and let's see what he does. Oh no, he goes left when he should have went right. I bet he goes to Whelp
zigged
Gate
when he should have zagged.
Yeah. The good news is that Yamaro is another Esper. The bad news is he already did the 2 juicy parts of Yamaro's check, and he had to go a little farther up there to get it. So let's see what he does now.
Yeah, so what are his levels? His levels are a bit higher than Honeydew's. So the thing I would have been concerned with is if I go and get this Esper at the end of Sealed Gate Cave, do I need to get my levels somehow? Looks like he's still looking for Monster in a Box. Maybe that pushes him up to do Umaro's check. Is he still looking for that offering?
So he's going to get 2 checks here when he does Whelp Gate and then the Flame Shield in that back behind it. He's quickly approaching the 22 check skip. That's going to put him at 18, and he'll have to have at least 19 to get through the rest of the seat because, again, he has to find one more Esper some way, somehow, and that will put him 1 check higher. And 18, 19, that's when you start getting into that, hey, I'm going to do the check skip realm no matter what.
Pet the dog for Nobody War after picking up Terra from Cave on the Veldt, so he just needs one more character, one more Esper. Meanwhile, Nightdew did show off the use of the spell Dispel, not
Very
this
nice.
spell, Dispel, to basically remove the image status and that reflect status. So Dr. DT points out something else in the chat. Doom on his second phase also uses Force Field, which will nullify certain abilities. So we got to finish this fight quickly, otherwise we might not be able to damage Doom, because all of our elements will be taken out of the fight here.
Doom is weak to one element, that is Pearl, and he does see it on, I think it was Nightdew's Terra. That doesn't matter now because he is safely through the fight.
Meanwhile, Nobody War sees that it's Maduin at Mobliz. Terra, is that you, little girl? Making sure we don't take Maduin away? There's some sort of story arc thing going on there. So Nobody War knows where a 9th Esper is. He just needs to find his 6th character now.
Yeah, I
Looking
like
at
not
his
doing that.
Tracker, he has his 9th Esper. I must have missed it.
Okay. Well, Nobody War had a mix up with his tracker one time, so I don't trust his tracker.
He does play on a Mac, so keep that in mind as well. That tracker is not automated.
Yeah. I mean, he might have 9 Espers. That might be true.
We'll find out when he finds his 6th character.
Trust but verify. Yeah.
When he gets character number 6, we'll know for sure.
And this, I believe, is another one of Terra's checks, Zozo Tower. So this isn't one we've seen yet either.
Nope. I'm curious. I think Zelfer's going to do. Zelfer's going to go rob his Maduin from the orphans. So this will be Zelfer's 9th Esper, and he'll be right in the tower behind Honeydew. I'm curious if Zelfer is going to do some shenanigans like Honeydew was doing, or if he's just going to tackle the tower as is.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this fight is Funbaba 3, and Funbaba 3 will blow 2 of your characters away. So half of his team won't get any XP from whatever this fight is. He does have higher levels than Honey does. I believe his characters are around 35, whereas Honey, as you said, we're in the high 20s. So he might just be ready to go into the tower. This will be Zelfer's 18th check, so he'll have to do 4 more checks to get skip. And looking at his tracker, I don't really see 4 very fast checks for him just to knock out really quickly in order to get skip.
I think for his stake, if he was going to do skip, he would have had to gone to Fanatic's Tower, peek that, because that gives him 3 checks. Plus, then he could do the Opera House. But him coming here kind of almost cements that he's going straight into the tower as is after this.
So one other interesting tidbit is that you could actually overkill Funbaba if you deal enough damage to him with, say, like a Valiant Knife offering or an Atma Weapon offering is the only way I've ever done it.
Mhm.
He only blows away one of your characters and you actually kill him outright. But that threshold between when he blows your characters away and how much HP he actually has is really high. So you could only do it with something like a VK offering or an Atma Weapon offering. And wow, this is a horrific fight for a 2v1.
No, out comes our first Ultima cast, and that just shows the nature of how dangerous this fight is. After about 30 seconds of ATB picks, Inferno will start doing Delta attack if all of his parts are up. They're not anymore, but nevertheless, this is still a dangerous fight because Inferno does have some nasty attacks he can throw at you, even when he's compromised in this state.
Yeah, and Zelfer says, thank you very much for that opening launcher. I'll use it on my Valiant Knife. Speaking of opening launcher, is this a vanilla Guardian for Honeydew? Ugh.
That is.
So one mean tower boss already. We've seen a bunch of different mean bosses, though. We've seen Goddess, we've seen Doom, we've now seen Inferno. But this is part of the reason why you bring your full party in here. It will dispense of these bosses rather fast.
I think we could muster up one or two more tough bosses. We do have a few more spots that they could possibly be waiting at. Plus, we've seen some easy bosses. We've seen Leader, we've seen Tunnel Armor, we've seen one of the Ultroses. A lot of room left for a certain guy to appear.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Because
I'll say it every day. We want Magimaster in. He's going to be in the Goddess spot. It's almost a foregone conclusion. We don't need the runners to show us. We know already. Honeydew's Merton protection is all for healing of the fire spell Merton, so that's a huge boon. That just keeps your characters at full HP. Almost the entire Final Kefka fight. Awful news if you have a Valiant Knife, but Honeydew doesn't have the Valiant Knife. Looks like Zelfer is doing the auction house for some quick checks. Maybe he is going to go for checks.
Maybe he is going to go for skip. I would go. All right, let me look at his tracker here. So he has 8 characters.
That's an offering in the auction house. That is amazing.
Are you serious?
RNG. That is an offering. So not only is he going to get his check,
the Zelfer luck.
He is going to get his offering for his lock. So now his lock will be doing 20k a swing instead of 5k when his HP is compromised. That's unbelievable.
I thought so. Maybe maybe I need to go look at the code, or maybe this is a question. I thought that in a seed where there is one Esper max in the auction house, the Esper is always in the $20,000 slot. But that was not true because that was an offering for 20k there.
I thought it could be in either spot.
I thought it was always in the 20,000 spot, but that's something I got to go look up in the code. Meanwhile, Torado for Night Dew, and unfortunately for Nobody War, that is an Esper there at the top of Zozo Tower. Looking at Zelfer's tracker he doesn't really have any peekable checks left. That's the unfortunate part, right?
He does have his Opera Dragon left, which is what he's doing. And then I
meant for a 9th character. Sorry, I should have qualified.
Oh, that is true. He does have 8 characters. But nevertheless, he's going to get his check skip pretty fast here. Honeydew is going to warp out with 3 bosses out of the way. So Honeydew will have 2 more bosses he has to fight. When Zelfer gets his check skip, he'll have to fight 4 bosses, but he's going to be almost in the same spot as Honeydew physically. And again, one of the aspects of doing the check skip is you get to fight these dragons, you get to fight all these bosses, and you get all those extra levels. And you can make your fights go so much faster because you allow yourself to become so overpowered. So that could be a huge time save for Zelfer as well in his quest to catch up to Honeydew.
The validation was fixed dice.
Oh my. I completely missed that before Honeydew was fighting Vargas there in the Poltergeist spot. Fixed dice is very fun, but go ahead.
Question from Tharkus: how many weapons are there that ignore offerings damage reduction? There are 2. There is the Valiant Knife and there is the Fixed Dice.
Not quite. The Valiant Knife does do the damage reduction.
Well, just not for the HP boost part, excuse me.
Yeah, so there's 2 weapons. It's the Fixed Dice and the regular dice. but nobody ever uses the regular dice because they're terrible.
Mhm.
Those are the only weapons that aren't based on the regular damage formula that just basically use dice rolls. But the offering will give the Valiant Knife and the Atma weapon half damage, but their added damage bonus more than makes up for the fact that you're getting half damage, right? So it's not, it's maybe like, 1/4 less damage, but you're doing it over 4 turns versus just 1 turn. So it's one of those things where you should only use the offering with certain weapons, and the fixed dice are the only ones where the damage penalty doesn't happen at all. And it looks like Zelfer is going to do his last 2 checks at Toilet Atma and the Dragon Kefka's Tower, so he'll get skipped very soon. And this is definitely going to be a close one between our 2 runners on the right-hand side. Nobody War, meanwhile, is about to get Umaro. He just has to beat up this fiery rock. Night Dew taking down Tritok. This is at Ebbett's Rock, so this is yet another Esper.
That
Still
does
looking
put
for that last character.
That does put Night Dew on the Esper check skip, because he'll just need 1 more Esper. And as we've seen from some other runners, if he goes to the right spot, he will get it. Nobody War, probably with 10 Espers, I don't think that 12 is viable, but if he's with 10 Espers, 6 characters now, he could be in the neighborhood of the check skip as well.
Yeah, according to his tracker, he's only got 13 checks, but he has Floating Continent crossed off twice instead of 3 times, so he probably doesn't have enough checks to do some shenanigans like Zelfer's trying to do here.
And even if he did, he probably wouldn't know it because manually tracking is a pain. And as we alluded to earlier, he may be at 9 or 10 Espers. I don't know who we're gonna trust more, Knuckly or Nobody War, but this Flame Eater is giving Nobody War a lot of trouble, though.
Yeah, I don't think that there is, when you walk into Narsh, if you go to the classroom, there is a healing bucket. I don't think Nobody War went to it, and Setzer and Strago were definitely hurt from the previous encounter there. And I believe he's using that Gold Bear Rage, so that special ability is called Gouge, and that will do 2.5 times the damage of whatever Terra is normally attacking with. Which looks like some sort of claw something. Oh no, that's that's the Gold Bear animation. Never mind.
In the interest of further getting incredible luck, Zelfer just took down the Skull Dragon, which will give him the Muscle Belt, plus an Illumina, which isn't too shabby. So that Muscle Belt's going to go fantastic with his lock, who already has that offering. The Valiant Knife, now the Muscle Belt, that's going to be... His offense on that lock is going to be about as good as it gets.
All right. Meanwhile, Honeydew, after walking back through the tower, is going to be at a spot here where he's got his party going up against the last 2 bosses. Meanwhile, Zelfer has 4 bosses to kill. That's going to be that Vanilla Guardian, the Vargas at the top of the Poltergeist spot. And we'll see what's at the side statues. You made a prediction earlier, Glue, and we're going to see if it's going to come true after this Funbaba 4 fight here.
We can only pray. Yeah, Honeydew will utilize his Merton to get through this fight relatively quickly. But again, we know there's nothing too scary so far for Zelfer, so it's just going to be a lot of smashing the A button and moving on about his business.
All right, so that is KT skip complete for Night Dew there with the 12th Esper.
Nice.
Unfortunately, he has not unlocked Final Kefka yet, and your character can't be in Kefka's Tower. So Night Dew has got to figure out where exactly they need to go for a character. What options do they have? They have Phoenix Cave, they have Burning House, and maybe Elite River, because we haven't seen that one. He's going to do Zozo Tower next, which unfortunately is not a character. So actually the characters in the seed, even though we got them early, they're in kind of not very nice spots. They're in Burning House and Phoenix Cave.
Could you remind me where we got Go-Go from originally?
That was
Phoenix
Cave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then Realm was in Go-Go's spot.
Yeah, so you don't have to go to Phoenix Cave to get all of the characters needed, but they are kind of behind some less optimal spots like Burning House.
And we don't know what Elite River is. We'll see if that is on the table when Night Dew finds that this is not his his 6th character. Nobody War finally gouging his way through, clawing and scraping.
Very nice.
Pun intended there. And we'll get that Umaro, and he will also be in go mode there, unlocking Final Kefka complete. So he at least has 9 Espers. And unfortunately, Glue, it is the 3rd Ultros we've seen this seed.
I guess that's very poetic because we do have Ultras League kicking off April 6th at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time. Sign-ups are still available at ultrasleague.com if you are interested. If you're on the fence, let me tell you right now, if you sign up for Ultras League, we will not put your email into a bunch of spam messages. You will receive no email message from us other than official Ultras League business. April 6th is when the season kicks off.
And we do have over 100 people signed up for this season of Ultras League, and Ultras League is designed to put you with other players of the same skill level. So everybody starts out in the bottom tier, almost like a ladder, and you'll work your way up, kind of like an ELO system almost, but it's based on, like Grand Prix or Mario Kart type scoring, where you get a certain number of points for first place and less for second, and so on and so on. So, and then similar to European soccer leagues, there is the concept of promotion and demotion. So that's how you can climb through the ranks here as we get Honeydew onto Final Kefka before Zelfer.
Yeah, Zelfer has 2 more fights left, which he's going to have no problem with whatsoever. So it's just a matter of how quickly can Honeydew deal with his Final Kefka versus how fastly Zelfer can catch up to him. Because there's no doubt in my mind that Zelfer will finish closer to Honeydew than he is right now. It's just a matter of does Honeydew finish the seat before Zelfer can get up to him.
All right, so I don't know what Nobody War has spotted in the Coliseum, but let me tell you, Glue, going to the Coliseum at the end of the seed is way more difficult than at the start of the seed, and it's due to the Coliseum AI. And
oh no.
It's a travesty. Let's go ahead and get Terra back from the zombie state there. So all right, so Honeydew on tier 1, attempting to use Break on that long arm. Break is one of the things that you can do to an arm, I think. I mean, I've never broken my arm before. I've heard it hurts, though.
You can also get tattoos on your arm if you choose to, or so inclined to do so, but in this case, the arm is not tattooed, but it is very, very muscle dense. And despite its muscle density, it is susceptible to instant death and Break. So that is why Honeydew is casting Break for the first time in this seed in this one spot, because while Break is not incredibly useful throughout a Worlds Collide seed or Final Fantasy 6 in general, this is one of the few spots where it could be utilized.
Yeah, so Honeydew really leveraging that Merton here. The question is going to be, how is he going to keep up this firepower? Because Merton does cost some 80, 90-ish MP to cast. So we need to have 84 it is in the seed. So with Worlds Collide, it's generally a range of MP cast compared to the original. So we need to keep feeding that fuel to Strago in order for him to use Merton over and over again. So we'll see as Honeydew progresses up the tree here how he gets on with it. Because Merton also becomes less and less effective. It's very effective on tier 1, where 2 of the 3 parts of it are weak to fire and wind, respectively. Tier 2, not as much. Tier 3, even less so. And that is not a character at Kefka at Narch either. That's a reset for Nightdew as well.
So Honeydew's lock does know Osmos, and I think that's going to be everybody's lock because it was natural magic lock, and that was one of its starting abilities. So he does have some way to restore some MP, at least on his lock.
Yep.
But Ultima will cost even more, obviously, on your screen than Merton. Yeah. That's another fantastic way to get through these parts. The downside, obviously, is you have to restore your MP somehow, and if you weren't banking on doing so throughout the entire seed, it's really easy to get up here, get to this point in the seed, in the game with no ability to restore your MP whatsoever. But never mind, he has 6 elixirs and 11 X ethers, so I think that's enough to get through this fight.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, sell that other Genji glove, pick up yourself some elixirs, because other than Other than OG health, I don't think we've seen a lot of healing magic in this seed. Yes, you can throw, elemental spells at your elemental shield wearers, but other than that, I didn't see a lot of health. And tier 2 is already getting cut down to size with 10 hits coming out. And we did mute magic already in the back, so we now just have to deal with Tiger and maybe even Tools. I don't know if we have any other instant death. But when you have Merton and that many elixirs, it really doesn't matter. All right, Tools is already dead, so.
Yep.
I wonder what Nobody War is looking for here.
It could be his last piece of Merton protection, earrings, and economizer. No, it's not earrings. He owns a pair of earrings, so he has a very robust jewelry box. Debilitator as well, but I don't think the Debilitator is what he is gouging in the worlds for.
No,
I think he's looking for his last piece of Merton protection, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
But he did just pass on a bread jacket, so.
Well, there's a hero ring and an Atlas armlet, so if he was looking for relics for his offensive users, so physical offensive builds will benefit from both the hero ring and the Atlas armlet, 25% added damage. Meanwhile, Honeydew makes it past tier 2 and is on to tier 3 here, and this is where Merton will not help you, because Girl absorbs all elements. So we'll see
think
what he has
Ultima
to do
will.
here.
I think his Ultima will come in handy for this tier, though.
Meanwhile, get out your paddles. We're on the Leet River with Night Dew. So
Oh no.
it's either Leet River or Burning House or Phoenix Cave as the options there for Night Dew. And these fights are quite annoying because that Hermit Crab will counter with Rock, which petrifies your character. And that means that character is considered dead, so they won't get any XP or MP from the fight. And,
How awful of a feeling is it when you have to go to Elite River at the 109-minute mark of a siege once?
It's no bueno, I'll tell you that much. Leet River is my least favorite check in the game. I had routed it out of my Worlds Collide seeds entirely. However, there was a buff to the Leet River in one of our more recent patches, and yes, the game is still under pseudo development. It's sort of open source. Oh man. Look at this.
Oh no. Yeah, fortunately for Night Dew.
That lack of that level there from Terra. So the Leet River was buffed. It reduced the number of forced encounters from a random amount to just 4. So it's at least much better than it used to be. However, it's still rather lengthy with all of the cutscenes floating on the raft.
And plus, Elite River falls under the category of you have to invest 4 fixed encounters plus some animation time to get the bad news that Doom gazes at the end of it. And again, there is no requirements for Elite River to be guaranteed progression. So this could be another Esper, the 14th for Night Dew. It could be an item. We haven't seen it yet, so there's no guarantee this is the character he needs.
Meanwhile, Honeydew getting past his 3rd tier. We had Fenrir in the Narsh weapon shop, so all of our runners will have that calmness protection. I don't think Kefka's too long for this world, and we'll see what Honeydew's final time is here in just a second. Time is on the crack pow.
Now, we have also not seen Schwanz's favorite relic, the Marvel Shoes, in this seed, which could be the reward from beating Doomgaze.
Unfortunately,
I don't think it can.
I say unfortunately, but
It's
for
fortunate.
Schwanz's
Come on.
sake, no, it's unfortunate. It cannot be a Marvel Shoe because in Ultra Sleeves Flags, the Marvel Shoes were removed from the item pool in Season 5.
That's right.
So
Okay.
you no longer get the good stuff from all the checks anymore. You only get the luminos and whatnot, the stuff nobody cares about.
Yeah, the gutter tier garbage. Yeah, so that was an update that was made as well. I think the same thing as the Leet River. And oh wow, it's a wild child on our Leet River. It is Gao.
Ooh, nice.
Praise be. Oh man, Night Dew is very happy about that river rafting trip.
So Night Dew has the requisite number of Vespers per checks. He has the requisite number of characters to unlock the boss. He should be on his way to the Kefka's Tower now as well.
All right, so Honeydew just eating a fallen one because he's got flame shields and a paladin shield on his characters, so he just healed himself while dealing damage to the boss, which is why Merton is such a good ability here. And he's going to finish up momentarily, charging for Goner. Now, after using them all seed, well, not really all seed, but all throughout the Kefka fight, finally tossing over the flame shields, he finishes 1:12:15 is your time for Honeydew. Get your GGs in the chat, as
GGs
Zelfer did
indeed.
not have enough firepower there to catch up at the end. So Honeydew is our first place winner overall, not just including the restream.
Is Honeydew in here? I heard somebody join us. That must have been Joker.
That must have been Joker. Yeah, I'm going to see if we can plug somebody else in that is running. So just give me a second and I will do that.
Yeah, so Zelfer started maybe 2 tiers and some change behind Honeydew. He's going to finish about 1.5 tiers behind Honeydew. Nevertheless, the levels were a huge boon, but not enough for Zelfer to catch up to Honeydew, as Zelfer is making his way up to tier 4 now. Nightdew is at his first statue, or excuse me, his Guardian spot, which coincidentally is Guardian. So this is the first of his 4 fights that he will work his way through, and we are joined by the man of the hour, the one, the only, the top dog tonight, Honeydew. Honeydew, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
So 1:12:15 was your time. That's an amazing time. What was your goal coming into this to finish that fast? What was your game plan for this Ultras League seed?
Well, had a feeling it was gonna be a magic seed when I saw the early plus magic sites. Didn't realize this all there was gonna be. I had opened like 90 something chests, trying to find a weapon for luck. But in the end, I kind of wish I didn't do that. At the time, I didn't know I was gonna double dip KT, so I was trying to get lock online. I have a guy that can solo a 3rd lane.
Mm-hmm.
But once that didn't work out, I knew I was double dipping. I realized in hindsight I didn't need to open all that chest looking for a weapon for luck.
Mm-hmm.
Because Shadow can do a lane, Striggle can do a lane, but I never found that 3rd guy.
Mm-hmm.
Do we tell him, Glue?
There was a Valiant knife to be had. There was an Illumina to be had.
From yet another dragon.
Yep. But from a chest standpoint, there wasn't much out there.
And that is, sorry to interject, 1:14:35 for Zelfer, 2nd overall. Get your GGs for Zelfer there.
Yeah, GG's. But once I got the Paladin shield unlocked, and I got the Merton Magicite. That was my in-game magic. However, one thing I noticed this seed, it was so hard to get magic points this seed, is like every boss you got was a no magic point boss.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like the entirety of Floating Continent and Opera Dragon. Did Opera Dragon because I wanted to get Merton learn as fast as possible so I can get the plus Magicite back on Shadow ASAP. So that's why I did the random Opera Dragon like dead in the middle of the seed. But despite all that, it still took like several boss fights to even get Ultima, and even longer to get Merton. This 0 MP boss fight after 0 MP boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even in Kefka's Tower, it's you had a couple of bosses that didn't get magic points.
What did you want to tell Honeydew Schwartz? I'm trying to remember what you were pointing out.
Oh no, about the Valiant Knife and the Illumina. That was.
That's what I was on. We were on the same page.
Different tower spots. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you went down the other lane, you found all the good stuff as Zelfer unearthed for us. Speaking of Zelfer, son of the gun, we are joined by Zelfer as well. Zelfer, GG's on your 1:14XX finish. Zelfer, what was your game plan towards the end there when you were doing those last checks, trying to get that last piece of progression, and you kind of upped your check count coincidentally? What was your game plan there?
Well, the original game plan was just to find the last Magicite and call it a day and go to the tower. But when I kept on getting the dead checks, I was like, you know what? I'm a little greedy. I just want to raise my check count as quick as I can then, and I'll just do skip because I don't like walking through the tower anyway. So that really became the goal. Like, all right, get to check number 2, call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad I did.
How exciting were you to see that offering in the auction house.
Oh my goodness! Out of everything I was expecting in there, I was just completely was not expecting an offering. I was doing the monster boxes, no offerings at all. They were all trash. I was like, oh boy, whatever. I was like, well, I just need a check, and then I can do my normal stuff. And when I saw the offering, I was cheering. I was cheering for myself. It was really, really good.
There was an offering in the Coliseum as well. I forget what, but I think actually Honeydew showed us. Honeydew, you remember what the offering traded for?
I believe it was Red Jacket for offering.
Ooh.
But didn't have a
Fair.
weapon to do the Coliseum with, so I just left it there.
There was also an offering at Fanatic's Tower Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was thinking about Fanatic's Tower too.
And that was an Esper as well. I think the boss was leader, so it wasn't too scary.
Leader was in Burning House.
Yep, leader was in Burning House.
Who was
Boss
up there
Doom.
then?
Who was up and where?
Oh yeah, it was Doom and
Yeah,
stuff.
Doom was in Fanatics. It was pretty bad, yeah.
Well, it was bad if you were Night Dew, but if you were casting Merton for Quad 9s, I think he would have been fine.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, we were be remiss if we didn't ask you. Did y'all fellas sign up for season 6 of Ultra League? Are y'all one of the 109 that are competing?
Yeah, I guess I'll throw my head into the ring. Why not?
Sure, I gotta be inside and keep on going. Go as long as I can. Sure.
Very nice. We love to hear y'all counting the company line.
So, I guess we'll ask this one at a time. My usual question. Honey, one thing from the seed that you want to continue to do throughout your Ultra Sleek Season 6, and one thing from the seed that you'd like to not do as much, please.
Something that's burned me a few times in Season 6 is... as something I want to do less is... Somehow, some way, I kind of forgotten how good magic is, so like, I kind of get in a panic mode whenever I don't have a single Vigor character online. And I used to like lean really heavy into magic, but I don't know if it's playing War and Triads for a few months, but it's like, I always feel like I gotta find that big sword, I gotta find that big stick. And this seed proved that you absolutely don't need a weapon. So, yeah, maybe I gotta dial back the over-reliance on Vigor characters. And, you know,
Just give
whenever
what the seed takes you sometimes.
Yeah, when I got Magic Plus and I got good spells and I got non-elemental magic because I had Meteor also, it's like I should have just been satisfied, but I wasn't satisfied. But oh yeah, things I want to keep doing. I've done very, very few KT skips in Season 6, and it's been working out for me for the most part. Is like, I'm not afraid to do KT at like level 31, 33, 35, and they got a lot of players that they want to go for skip like every single seed, and I think I'm performing better than them on average, not being afraid to go in the low 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing different between 6 and 5 is, you know, the skip's not always going to be the play in 6. So I like that change to 22 checks a lot.
And Zelfer, same thing question to you. What is one thing you did not you'd like to carry over to the season that you did well? What is something you would like to discontinue? Maybe change up a little bit about your performance during the actual league.
Well, I normally don't check the curse shield. I usually just skip it, whatever. I'm not going through the battles. And that worked out pretty well for me, I think, today. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind, I think. Get that, keep that Ultima, because Ultima actually was quite helpful. Even at 254 MP, which I really never thought I'd be saying. So that worked out pretty good. I'll have to keep that one in mind for sure.
It's hard to skip shield in a Burning House seed.
It really just worked out this time. It really, really did. And I think a lot of the time we end up doing some kind of stupid forced encounter, fixed encounter check, right? So curse shield's probably not as bad as I make it out in my mind. What I should stop doing, I don't know if I'd like to stop doing it, but what I should stop doing is well, maybe I like to, go for skip all the time, and maybe I like to loot everything in history, and, just completely be ready to destroy everything in the world. And I probably should be rushing things a lot quicker and not needing to get as powerful as I'd like to do. I should be cutting back on the looting and cutting back on the, sure, 5 dragons at Toilet Atma, and all, I really should stop that. I should just rush KT and be like, I know enough, I could get past it. Am I going to do it? I really don't know if I'm going to do it, because I really like not doing that and just getting stupidly overpowered. But that's what I should be doing.
You just need to win. You don't need to win more, right?
I don't need to win more. If someone else can do it quicker, you know what? Good job. I'm just having a blast destroying everything in 5 seconds. It's fun.
Well, thank you too for agreeing to participate and be featured on Restream. Can't have the races without the runners, obviously. Glue, do you have any other questions for our runners?
Before we let you guys go off into the night, is there anything y'all would like to talk about from outside of Ultras League, outside of the community, or something else you got going on you'd like to plug? Honey, do yourself first.
And just tune into my treadmill streams, trying to get in shape while I'm practicing for this UL season. And that's about it for me.
That's a really good idea. For me, I'm actually, for the first time ever, gonna try to toss my hat into one of those charity marathon events. For Worlds Collide, so it'll be something I'm familiar with at least. But it'll be my first time actually doing something of that nature. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Very nice. Which one will that be?
I'm actually signed up for 2 of them. Well, we'll submit things for the SNES Superstar Marathon one. We'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah, I'm doing that tomorrow with you. I should probably write that down.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, please show up.
Make sure you got it.
I am not going here after work tomorrow. I'm coming back here. Okay, duly noted.
Thank you, because I don't know anything about any of these things. I'm just here to play a game and, help somebody somewhere. That'd be great. And also the TLG Co-op Chaos Marathon. I think that one's way in the future, though. I don't know if how close that'll be, but, we're laying the brickwork down for that one. So that's kind of what I got.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to participate in a couple of charity marathons the past couple of weekends for the National Alliance on Mental Illness for Randothon and for Multithon for Blue Path Service Dogs. So always good to give back to charity there, and thank you for helping us at least with Multithon with some of our practice runs to make sure that we got a seed that was, I'm going to use air quotes here, playable for the marathon.
No problem. That's really what clued me in, actually. I was like, you know what? I probably should join one of these things. We'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for racing. Can't have the races without the volunteers to do the running. And good luck with this season of Ultra Sleek Season 6, unless you're in Mega Elixir, because that's where I am. And that's no good luck for you. I plan to stay this time.
I will purposely try to purge myself for luck for you then.
Fair enough.
Yeah, good luck trying not to drown in Mega Elixir. I'll try not to drown in Elixir. Competition is insane this season.
I'm coming back down to Elixir, baby. Get my seat ready.
109 entrants. That is insane. And we could always have more.
Do we really have 109 entrants?
That's what the word on the street is.
Yes, we do.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a lot.
Look at us going mainstream. All right. See you guys in UL6. Good night, everybody.
Where's Paul Rudd? Look at us. Who would have thought?
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for doing all of this stuff too, the commentating, the tracking, the restreaming. It's not possible without that either. And have a good night, everyone.
All right, sounds good.
Later, my dog.
Thank you. So Zelfer was definitely looking at the chat for Speed Gaming, as it did plug SNES Superstars Marathon. It's going to be on Speed Gaming June 15th through 14th through the 24th. So Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide is planning on doing a submission for that marathon. Whether or not we get chosen is a different story, but we'd at least like to be in the room where it happened, and I'm not going to start singing. But it looks like we got some Kefka fights on screen, Glue, and we've got some new players. I've tried to rotate a few of our players that were not chosen to be on the initial restream, rotating them in so we could see how lots of our runners are getting on. And I see lots of different parties in the final fight, which is always really cool to me, and one of the great things I love about Worlds Collide so much.
Yeah, from our starting four, we have Night Dew, who's making his way up to Tier 3, and then we have Nobody War, who is progressing his way through his Tier 1. And as you can see from our off-stream crew, we got Christopher Workman, who is working his way through some statues. And we got Mr. Flurry 14, who is on his way up to Tier 4.
Yeah, so third tier here for Night Dew. Using Flare, which is a non-elemental defense ignoring spell, and it looks like he's got Lock in the front row, so I'm assuming that's a Valiant Knife build for him. Setzer in the front row for Nobody War, so I'm assuming that's also a Valiant Knife build for him, because that's really the only weapon that I've seen our runners pull out besides that Illumina. So
I don't think Night Dew's Lock has the Valiant Knife. I think he has something else, and I think he's just, hey, I had the Strength +2 Esper on him for the past hour. I might as well let him win a stunner or a striker or something.
So one underrated weapon, especially against tiers 2, 3, and 4, is the Man-Eater, which will do double damage to human targets. And everything from tier 4, or rather tier 2 on up, except for Tiger, is considered a quote-unquote humanoid enemy. So you'll get double damage out of it. It normally doesn't do a whole heck of a lot in a lot of the rest of the seed, but on the final fight, it's something that you could certainly take in to battle here, and it's something that Locke can naturally use as well. So maybe that's what it is. I wasn't quite sure.
I've told you my theory about the Man-Eater before, right?
What's your theory about the Man-Eater?
That it's not a coincidence that the only places in the vanilla game you can buy the Man-Eater are all in the neighborhood of Zozo, and that it is sold and equipped by the citizens so that they can use it on the citizens of Zozo when they venture down from the mountain. They get a little too handsy where they may go, as the citizens of Zozo are known to do.
So there you go. I thought you were going to start singing Hall & Oates for me. I'm a little disappointed.
Nevertheless, we got Flurry wrapping up his tier 4 because we are in Goner mode. Actually, it looks like he's going to do some restorative action. He's not able to quite utilize the full offensive outburst you'd like to do here. Nevertheless, I don't think Kefka is going to be around too much longer.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was going to have to eat a Goner. And the worst thing about this spell is the animation cast time. Sure, it looks cool as hell, but it takes up a long time. And it does not ignore magic defense, so it usually is sort of a nothing burger of a spell. Unless, of course, that is, you forget to heal yourself up from the Fallen One phase of this fight. And that's when things can get ugly real fast.
Looks like Flurry's going to go for it and just crack his shields. He must be in the danger zone. Quad knives from one shield. I think quad knives from this one as well. Yep. I think that's going to do it.
Unfortunately, yeah. Hopefully it does. There you go.
Yeah.
GG's for Flurry as well. When Kefka is not charging for Goner, he will counterattack, and if he gets low enough HP, he'll counter with Ultima. But even if he doesn't, he will counter with Hyperdrive, which will definitely kill one of your party members.
I think Flurry would have been fine for Ultima, because Ultima is going to do about 2,500-ish worth of damage, and he has one character in the air with 32 and another with 29. And then maybe it kills Strago, maybe it doesn't at 2551. So he was within the appropriate HP range to risk it a little bit there. Nevertheless, 130-25 for Flurry. GG's, my friend. Night Dew at 131 is almost to his Kefka fight. We're about the halfway point.
Yeah, so out comes the Mega Elixir here, very important after Fallen One. So Kefka's battle script basically goes, I have 60,000 HP. If you do not do 30,000 damage in the first turn, I'm going to give you Fallen One. If you do, that's my counterattack threshold. I'll start doing Hyperdrive and Havoc Wing, and he will charge for this move called Goner, right? And this will make you make him susceptible to being attacked without countering. So you get 1 turn each from each of your characters, and it looks like out come the rods here, out come the shields. So this is your time to just start pouring on the damage here with your characters, because you will not get counterattacked by Ultimas or Hyperdrives or Havoc Wings. So now's a good time to do it, and we'll see if Night Dew has got enough to get it done before the Goner phase here.
Yeah,
One more shield should do it.
Yeah, this quad 9s. That's it. Almost quad 9s. Doesn't matter. GG's to Night Dew.
Boom, pal. How
132-14.
you like me now? Nicely done. 132-16 is the official race time there for him.
Very nice.
We'll see if we can get them in for a little chat.
And nobody is working his way through his tier 2 still. There he is. There is Night Dew, the man of the moment.
Hello.
Night Dew, 132.14 is your official time. Or excuse me, 132.16 is your unofficial time. What are your thoughts on that time and the seed overall in general?
You know, for the lack of offense, I felt pretty good about my early game there. And it was just scurrying around to find that last character. It's like, I mean, what I think Locke had that Man-Eater for the entire seed until, yeah, until fixed dice in the validation chests, which were fixed and not in a good way. I mean, those were some absolutely terrible rolls going up.
Yeah, you unfortunately can't always roll what you want. And in this seed, you sort of subverted what some of our other runners did. You were the only player to not go into the burning house, so therefore you did not get Setzer, and that led to some other characters down that path. And you also avoided Phoenix Cave, which was Go-Go, which then turned into Realm, so there were more characters down that other path. You instead had to settle for a 13 Esper romp through the Leet River. So that's just unfortunate how it goes in that particular setting there. Just to give you a recap on what you missed.
Oh my! I mean, I get it. 2 of my most hated checks in the game. I'm terrible at avoiding fires through Burning House. I mean, Phoenix Cave isn't bad, just a little bit long there. I swear, every time I play Archipelago Multi-World with my friends, there's an Illumina in there somewhere. But
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of my own just little predilections. Yes, I'll fade that. Those 2, probably a little bit more than I should, honestly.
Yeah, so I've been asking this question of the other runners. I'll ask it of you. What is something that you did in this race that you hope to carry forward? Hopefully you are playing in this season of Ultras League, yes? Question mark?
Yes, I did sign up there.
Okay, great.
Among a couple people who have pushed us in that direction. Morpheus, Gar, looking at you. But honestly, really, I felt a lot better in my early game than I usually did. Maybe Fnatic's Tower was a bit of a push, but I felt like I was looking for power still. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got a dragon in the chest up top. I've got to hit something. Well, I did get that offering, which came of use eventually, just like 40 more minutes down the road.
Better late than never.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Sometimes the reason and the rationale can be correct. It's just unfortunate that that's how the seed broke, and that's certainly the case with this particular one here, right? So, And other than maybe checking some of those lesser desirable, spots, what's something you want to maybe fix going forward that you did in this run that you were not happy with yourself about?
Oh boy.
You're like, where do I start? No.
Where do I start? The first part is I think you may have saw me like walk into World of Ruined Minds for a minute, thinking I had Lone Wolf 2, and remembering, oh wait a minute, no, that's Weapon Shop 2, and I could have got that other flame shield forever ago. And maybe threw Unlock on the magic power and ran Merton with like 4 flame shields to the seed.
Yeah. That's for sure. Well, listen, Worlds Collide is one of those games where you learn everything the hard way. Right?
Yep.
The more seeds you learn, the more mistakes you make, the better off you'll be, sort of in the long run, right? So,
yeah.
Will you have any other questions here for Night 2?
No, I was just gonna say, Night D, before we let you go. I know you're big in the free enterprise and maybe probably a couple other communities as well. Is there anything else you got coming on you'd like to talk about before we let you go?
Not at the moment here. I mean, I know I did like MFT for a while back, then real life stuff happened, and then getting into Ultras League, and actually kind of really, really happy to get into that. So, yeah, everybody's been great so far. So, yeah, just hope to have a good league here soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, really good time tonight with all of the things that you had to sort of deal with in this particular seed. It coming down to basically the 3 worst checks in the game, in my opinion, for your characters. Thankfully, they were all characters, but yeah, that's a thing there. So. But thank you also for volunteering to be on Restream. Can't have the races without the runners, so really appreciate you coming on and getting to showcase off this wonderful randomizer. Really appreciate it, and good luck this season for Ultras League.
All right, thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate you. And we got Nobody War, who is wrapping up his tier 3. Outcomes columnist, but that is not the columnist you want to see. That is just a disable attack from Lady, the back part. That is not the instant death attack. That can just put your character to sleep, or it can miss. It can do nothing.
Yeah, who decided to name 2 abilities on the same boss, the same thing, that do radically different things?
It's really just a testament to how poor the translation was for Bomb 6. Because as you see, Merton, I think, was supposed to be called Meltdown.
Yeah, well,
and there is just a
character
plethora.
limitation from Merton.
But there is just a plethora of other things that you could argue that are just egregious with the translation. And Nobody We're still relying on Bolt 2 quite a bit for his Kefka fight.
Yeah, so part of the problem here, as we mentioned, is lack of healing magic, right? So Strago and Shadow just not being very healthy. And there was also, outside of Merton, you heard it from several of our runners here, trying to figure out what the heck they were going to do in terms of offense for this particular seed, right? So we saw some of our runners get a little bit more creative with things like Man-Eater, and we know we have the fixed ice and the validation chests, but sometimes you have to just do things a little slower, and that's going to be difficult on this tier because we need something to push through the 10,000 damage threshold that comes from Medio to Calmness. So let's see how Nobody War tackles this challenge here.
He's going to be tackling it with 2 characters now because 2 of them just went down to the first Medio. Outcomes Train, this is going to be more of a hindrance for him. I think what Nobody War's experience right now is that there's a difference between being able to fight Final Kefka and then being Final Kefka ready. And that was kind of just a testament to the statue fights that were in front of him. We had an Ultras, we had a Fumbaba, we had a Guardian, which Guardian can be scary, but later on to see when your offense, even if you have something like Bolt 2, you could take care of him pretty easily. So that was just a testament to how easy the path was to get here. And it didn't quite prepare you if you didn't go out of your way.
Yeah, so one of the things you can do here is if you're in this Medio phase where, oh no, we're down to 1 now. If we're in this Medio sort of hole, if you will, and
I think he's taking the easy way out.
This is the give up here.
Yeah.
So if you're sort of in that Medio hole, what you can do is, I know it's counterintuitive, but you can actually heal the boss because that puts the boss above the threshold that it does for using that Medio, counterattack, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little weird because you think, why would you ever heal a boss? That is basically the reason why you would do it. Because a lot of the phases, if you will, in of different bosses in Final Fantasy VI are based on how much HP the boss may or may not have.
Mm-hmm.
So heal the boss out of that phase, and you don't get that phase anymore. I'll see if he wants to come in for an interview. Otherwise, I think, Glue, we could sort of wrap up here in just a few minutes.
I like Nobody Warp going out in style there. A lot of guys will let that last Meteo come out and finish him off, but no point subjecting Shadow to more horror. Just let Shadow go down and peacefully go to rest by casting Bio on himself. And plus, it's style points.
Yeah, always style points. And I think that, for Shadow, it's very heavily implied.
It's what he does.
With the ending of this game anyway, right? That he joins his homie Barum in when Kefka's Tower crumbles. He still can't get over racking himself with all that guilt. So it's not just Celeste. Celeste is not the only one in this game who has, that sort of bad feelings and bad omens. So,
and he really tries 3 different times, because he tries when you're on the floating continent and he just, kind of yeets himself into the statues in Kefka. And then he tries when you find him in the World of Ruin to go to the Colosseum and just let somebody else do the work for him. But finally, when you're making your way out of the tower, he just goes ahead and does it for himself and is no longer longing for this world.
All right, so Christopher Warkin, meanwhile, going through the last of this fight here, getting the quad 9s roll. Let's go.
Very nice.
Just has a few other things to get through here, and I think this is Magic dying, so he might be getting up for tier 3.
I take it Nobody War won't be joining us.
No.
Okay.
He's good. He's good. So anyway, Christopher Warkin is going to finish out this Kefka fight, but he wasn't picked to be featured on Restream. So we're going to say our goodbyes and sayonara's here. But I first want to thank my co-commentator Drinks Glue for talking the talk with me as well. And big shout outs to our tracker, Knuckly Kong. Knuckly, thank you for tracking 4 players at once. Is very difficult to do, but Knuckly Kong was on the ball, ladies and gentlemen and Moogles of all ages. And then we also have Joker Mage, the man pushing the buttons behind the scenes, setting up the stream, and getting this put on the schedule. Thank you so much, Joker, for doing that. Glue, you got anything else we want to chat about before we get the heck out of here?
I really, really want to push the signups from 109 to whatever the amount is that Double Down has to redo the Google Looker Studio spreadsheet project.
Yeah,
because that's a lot of work, and if we can hit that number, I would be very impressed and very happy.
I would love to see a dried meat tier and an X potion tier because of all of the hullabaloo that we've put him through. We have definitely smashed last season's sign-up record. I think it was in the 60s, maybe. So we've done like 85% increase in signups, which is pretty insane and pretty ridiculous. So thank you so much for being a part of it as well. And I think that'll do it for us here on stream. Thanks again, Glue, for doing this. And we'll catch you next time on another Worlds Collide Wednesday. Peace out, everybody.
Bye-bye.